What is up, everybody? Coach Rob here, and welcome back to a show that I haven't done in a long time. It's really just by name only, but many, many years ago, back in the old ketogenic bodybuilding days, some of you might remember that if you've been with me for a while. I used to go to my gym early in the mornings on Saturday or Sunday, and I did a show called Morning Muscle. And at the time, it was pretty damn popular. People seemed to dig it because it was very off the cuff, unedited, just me kind of shooting the shit, getting people caught up on what was going on. There was a lot of Q&A, which this will be as well, and just kind of having a nice conversation over coffee, which is required because it's roughly 5 a.m., and I used to do this at my gym. Now I'm doing it here in the bunker. Got my little mini portable studio set up so I can come down here early on Saturday and Sunday mornings on my weekends off, if there is such a thing. Turn on one button and we push record and go. So I hope you enjoy this, and this will sort of be the catalyst and the resource for the Q&A stuff. So if you have questions, I will regularly put up threads, or if I get particularly intriguing and compelling questions on certain Facebook posts or Instagram posts, or in the comments on YouTube, then I will start to jot those down and include them for the Q&A here on the weekly Morning Muscle broadcast. And in the event that this turns into something relatively popular, then I might even start live streaming it. So we'll see if anybody else is crazy enough to get up at 5 a.m. on a Saturday or Sunday morning and want to interact with me. So we'll just have to see on that one. But so anyway, when I talked about I used to go to my gym, man, I got to get you guys caught up on some stuff. First of all, I hope you had a Merry Christmas. I had a great Christmas. I had a bizarre Christmas, and I'll explain. And I had sort of promised on social media that I was going to be doing a lot of exciting, cool things coming into 2026, and I did not exaggerate, and those things are coming. We're coming right out of the gate in 2026, starting next week, and this is one of the beginning elements of that. So, first of all, some news. This is interesting, so follow along. I'll try to not make the story too long. So, it was about 2 weeks ago, I think, something like that. And so it's a Friday night, kind of chilling with my family, as one does on a Friday evening. And I get a phone call. And long story short, I get in that moment, what I thought was potentially devastating news that my gym that I have been in for 12 years, the same gym that I do the overwhelming amount of my video content from, the dark black office, and all that. It's that, and it's where I train my private personal clients. Well, we find out that gym is going away. The owners of the building, who are wonderful people that I am friends with and who have been extremely good to me over the years, unfortunately, for their business interests, had decided to sell the building, to liquidate it, which I get. That's fine. You got to do what you got to do in this world we live in. And they were kind enough to offer me the building in terms of purchase, but the purchase price was far greater than anything that I would want to commit to. And here's the cool part. Now, this isn't the cool part. This is the precursor cool part. The really crazy part is coming up. In the back of my mind for several years, I had been kind of quietly wishing that I was back to my roots, back where I started years ago, in a more intimate, private, sort of boutique personal training gym. A studio, if you will, if you want to get all bougie. which I like and my clients like. And that's how I started, and that's what I was known for in my community. And the building that we've been in for the last 12 years is a monstrosity. It's a very large upstairs where the gym is located, about 6,000 square feet. And the downstairs is a jiu-jitsu academy, which is cool, another 6,000 square feet. And throughout the course of 12 years, I've been responsible for a lot. It's a large building to oversee. It's a large building to maintain. The overhead can get crazy. And there's a lot of things to be responsible for. And secretly, and I'd expressed this to my wife and my wife only, many times over the last couple of years, that, man, I wish I just had a small private facility again with less stress, where I could truly do what I do and give my personal clients a more intimate, private setting where we could really zero in on them and give them the kind of attention to detail that I'd kind of been known for in this community. And the community, I'm in Hickory, North Carolina, this beautiful little town in western North Carolina. And I'd kind of been wishing for that, but never really gave it much thought beyond that, because I thought, I'm in too deep. I'm in this giant building, got too much going on, responsible for so many people, and I just kind of let it go at that. So I get the call that the building is being sold, and I need to find a new location. So in that moment, on that Friday night, me and my wife were both terrified, thinking, what the hell are we going to do? You know, we haven't leased a building in 12 years. And lease rates in this economy, in this nightmare political world we live in right now, are outrageous, and finding the perfect location is difficult at best. So in that moment, we were terrified. So the first thing I did is I called one of my best clients, who happens to be an outrageously successful businessman. So he's kind of the guy that I call when I'm faced with big business decisions or need advice. And the very first thing he said to me was, Rob, I have been faced with a lot of adversity throughout my entire career, building and running and operating large businesses. And he said, every time through my career that I thought I was faced with a devastating situation, it always turned out for the better in the long run. It always became a positive. And he said, this will be a positive for you. I just know it. Of course, in that moment, I'm still terrified and filled with doubt and wonder and uncertainty. So still kind of freaked out. My wife is panicking. So we had that going on in our heads throughout that entire weekend. What the hell are we going to do? We were even looking at some spaces for lease online, none of which really were what we needed or what we were looking for, and they were outrageously expensive. And so I go into the gym Monday morning still filled with doubt and clearly still fairly terrified. This is where it gets weird. Now, I don't know if you believe in divine intervention. I do. As a Christian man who puts his faith and trust in God, which I do, this was clearly one of those situations. So I'm in the gym early, training my clients like I always do, and mid-morning, one of my clients walks in. Fantastic client, great guy, great family, and he is successful in business as well, and is also into some real estate. The very first thing he says to me when he walks in the door is, Rob, you wouldn't happen to know any good, trustworthy trainers or coaches out there who would happen to be looking for a facility to train their clients in? I'm like, who have you been talking to? I haven't told anybody but my wife. He's like, what are you talking about? He had no idea. Nobody knew at this point. So I explained the situation that I was going through to him, and he's like, wow, man, no, I had no idea. Well, turns out he owns a building, a very nice building in the downtown community of the town that I have my business in. Beautiful little downtown, lots of little boutique shops, a nice square. That's where they do the farmers market, lots of foot traffic. It's kind of like the central hub of town where people go. They have festivals there. It's just a great place to be. He owns a building there. In that building is his business, one of his businesses that he and his wife run, which is a wellness company. They do functional medicine, hormone replacement therapy, all of those things. And it's very successful and thriving, and they do fantastic work. And around the back of that building happens to be a gym facility where a gym had been operating for a while there and had recently decided to move on. I don't know if they're changing facilities. I don't know if they're shutting down. I don't know. So he gives me the news, the insider news, that building is coming up for lease. And now with the information that he has at his disposal, would I be interested in jumping into that spot? Now, it is considerably smaller, but it's beautiful. It's move-in ready. It's literally got the commercial rubber flooring. It's got mirrors on the walls. It even has some really nice equipment already there that he had purchased for it. A couple of really nice commercial squat racks. It's got a rack of really nice dumbbells, some kettlebells, bumper plates. So it's basically ready to move into and rock and roll. And yes, it's smaller, but as I alluded to earlier, I'd kind of been secretly hoping or wishing or entertaining the thought of, wouldn't it be cool to sort of get back to those earlier roots where it's less people, less commotion, less craziness, where I can really get back to training people the way I like to, which is the environment that my clients even prefer, which is private, exclusive, boutique, if you will. So clearly that situation was too bizarrely ideal to turn down. And after giving it about 10 minutes thought, and I spoke to my wife and family, we decided to take the building. So it is going to be a shift in my business model, downsizing, reducing staff, and I am bringing, a couple of my best team members with me who are just spectacular trainers and coaches. A couple of the others are moving on to do their own thing, which I think they'll be very successful, and I wish them nothing but the best. So that's the situation. And let me ask you again, what are the odds that 48 hours after I get what I believe is potentially devastating news, that someone strolls into my gym at 9 a.m. the Monday after getting said nearly devastating news and basically hands me what is now looking like the perfect situation and drops it into my lap? This was not me. This was not random chance. This was divine intervention, and nobody's going to convince me that it's not. And if you don't believe in that stuff, well, that's fine, but you're not going to convince me otherwise. So, as I had suggested previously in certain social media outlets, my Facebook groups, my Instagram, big changes coming for 2026. Well, this big one just kind of dumped all over me, and I didn't even see it coming, but now I think it's going to turn out to be a massive positive. So, rolling into 26, cool things are already happening, and you are going to be the recipient for a lot of it. And I'd promised doing a lot more training videos, and I'm looking forward to filming training videos in this more private setting. And it's going to give me opportunity to shoot more video because it's going to be more private. There's not going to be a lot of people in there running around. I can set up cameras. We can do things properly the way they need to be. And I can give you guys a lot more of the training content that you've been asking for. And I'm excited to start filming that. So that's coming. So here we are. Episode 1, 2025-2026 edition of the Morning Muscle Show, and we start out with some pretty wild news. So what else is going on for 2026? Well, I had also done an Instagram post, maybe Facebook, where I said we've got some things coming up for a winter sale. Now, I don't want to be all salesy right now, and I'm not here to solicit, but I have made some decisions that I think are going to be very beneficial to you people. Number one, if you go to my website and you look at coaching plans available, one of my more popular is what we call basic coaching. And that is you get to, when you join that, it is app-based. You get workouts on an app. It's a very powerful app that you can track all sorts of metrics, weight, measurements. You can do check-in photos for yourself. It lets you know PRs that you make when you're doing sets and exercises. So it's app-based, and you get to choose from now 7 programs. So when you join it, you get access to the app. You download that app to your smartphone or tablet, and then I set up your program, and then you have access, and then you choose which of the 7 programs you would like to have loaded into your app. And now these programs are not cookie cutter. These are programs that I built workout by workout by workout, and they span years. So when I would do really cool workouts, like for instance, the HIT program, HIT program, high intensity training, a lot of that program is literally workouts that I personally did, or the kind of style of training that I did throughout my contest preps, even from as early as this year, all the way back to preps that I did starting back in 2014. So similar style of training. It's all there for you, mapped out. And I've just added 2 new programs. Ladies, wake up. You're going to be interested in this. I have one that's called the Women's Body Transformation Program. I have a beginner/intermediate, and I have an intermediate/advanced. The beginner intermediate is a 4-day split that's focused a little bit more on women's style training. A lot of which is the style of workouts that I prescribe to my gold clients who get custom programming, custom macros, Zoom check-ins, and all that cool stuff. And then I have the Women's Body Transformation Program Advanced, which is a 5-day split. Both programs place a little bit more focus on legs and glutes and body parts that women generally need to accentuate in order to build that beautiful, symmetrical, balanced, badass physique. So they've been added. So if you join the basic program, you get to choose from 7 programs, and those 2 women's specific programs are now included in the program, and you can choose those. And you can switch programs anytime you like. Anytime you like, you just message me, say, hey, I want to try this program. I load it for you. So it's really, really cool. And it used to be $49 a month, which I still think is a good price for all you get. Now, I have just switched it to $19. It's going to stay $19. $19 a month. You get to choose from 7 different programs. There's 2 more women-specific programs on there. $19. It's at robgoodwinfitness.com, and you cancel at any time. It's month to month. I don't do contracts. I don't do commitments, all that crap. Boom, done. The other thing that I'm doing for the winter sale, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, is my wildly popular consultations. It's a 1-hour Zoom consultation where you and I meet on Zoom and discuss absolutely anything you want to discuss. We can talk about your programming. We can talk about your diet. We can talk about macros. We can talk about carb cycling. We can talk about, alterations you can make to a carnivore style diet, whatever the case may be. It's 1 hour for you and I to sit down and discuss whatever you want and lay out a blueprint that will propel you into 2026 and help you accelerate towards your goals. It's normally $150 for that hour. Right now, for the winter sale, it's $79, and you just use the coupon code TALK26. So when you go to buy the consult, you go to the store, You buy that, and in the coupon box, you put in TALK26. It immediately changes the price from $150 down to $79. Boom. I send you then my calendar. You pick the day and time that works best for you. Then we meet and we get to work. So there. All right, I'm done with the paying the bills. So now, Morning Muscle, let's get down to some Q&A. I've got them on my phone here. Now, back around Thanksgiving, I did a couple of social media posts on all the platforms talking about doing a Q&A for Thanksgiving, and we didn't get that many questions. So clearly, you just don't care, or it was a busy time, whatever the case may be. So I collected some of those. I thought I'll wait and maybe see if some more questions come in. So we got through Thanksgiving and now we're here and we're going to answer some of these questions now on Morning Muscle. More coffee. All right. Now I want to start with this one question because since I started doing carb cycling for my 2025 competition prep, it really stirred up the pot. And now just about every question I get is about carb cycling, making adjustments to carb cycling, how I do this, how you do that. I have done more diligent research on carb cycling over the last year than I have just about anything else. I've consulted with some of the best and brightest in the industry who have been using this. I have implemented it on myself throughout my entire contest prep with spectacular results. And many of my current clients, my gold clients and my competition prep clients are using it. And so far, the feedback has been nothing but extremely positive. No one doesn't like it, and no one has since asked to go back. So I want to address one of the questions and then maybe expand on carb cycling a little bit and get kind of that out of the way, because I think I needed to be doing some sort of a carb cycling 101 kind of a video. So we'll kind of start that process here. So in this question, and damn it, I didn't write down who asked the question. Sorry about that. I wanted to give you a shout out, but it says, I've been doing low carb carnivore for a while, lost 50 pounds. Awesome. I'm interested in carb cycling to start adding muscle mass and have overall more energy for my workouts. Valid. Gym sessions are first thing when I wake up, so not a lot of time to get a full meal in before, usually just have a protein shake and then I'm out the door. What would you suggest for carb timing? The night before, maybe? For the past few weeks, I've incorporated carbs in my 2 post-gym meals and have noticed a difference, but usually stay low to no carb in my evening meals. Good question. And I get a version of this question a lot, and it's going to segue into a couple other questions that I regularly get, and we'll kind of compress carb cycling 101, especially some of the fine points that people often ask, and we'll knock that out right now. So if I'm working out early in the morning and I want to do carb cycling, first of all, carb cycling isn't just pre and post workout. Now, a lot of people get confused by that because back in the day when I did my hybrid carnivore nutrition protocol, I would do predominantly meat, eggs, fish, animal stuff throughout the day. But I would always have some carbohydrate pre-workout, and then I would have an even larger whack of carbohydrate post-workout. And then the remainder of my day would be very low carb. With carb cycling, that's not what that is. Now, you can start out that way, out of the gate especially, to sort of titrate up the carbohydrates and let your body adjust to having carbs back in your system, which it may not be accustomed to because if you've been low carb for a time. And this will also help your gut microbiome adjust, your gut flora adjust. And it's just an easier transition for many just to slowly add them back in. So the perfect time to slowly add that back in would be pre and post workout. But then ultimately you want to get to a point where your meal frequency generally increases. So like when I'm prescribing a carb cycling protocol for people, let's say, for some it might be 150 grams of carbs for a day. For some it might be 300 grams of carbs for the day, which is as much as it may sound to the low carb people out there. It's really not that much. And for some of my very muscular, hard training males out there, it could be in excess of 500 grams a day. And what we do is we divide that 150, 300, or 500 grams, whatever the case may be, we divide that up across most of your meals, if not all of your meals. If you're in a muscle gaining phase, or a gain phase as I like to call it, I will have carbohydrates in every single one of your meals. If you are also a high-performing athlete, bodybuilder, physique competitor, or you just want to have the most ultimate ripped, muscular, jacked physique you could imagine, I generally have these people eating 4 to 5 meals a day, spaced out throughout the day about every 3 or 4 hours. So you would divide the number of carbohydrates up into those meals. Now, I will say the biggest whack of carbohydrates should generally be pre and post-workout. You pose no risk of any of that carbohydrate spilling over and storing as fat, which is actually a very expensive physiological process. It is not as easy as the influencers and the carnivore community will tell you. Some out there will tell you that if you eat 5 grams of carbs, it's immediately going to convert to fat on your body, and insulin, which is all a big crock of horse shit. So I generally would have the bulk of those 100, 300, 500, whatever carbohydrates. I would have the largest whacks of those pre and post workout. And then whatever's left, you divide that up throughout the day in all of your other meals. And no, there's no truth to, you shouldn't eat carbs after 6 or whatever. That's all bullshit. It's about taking in the appropriate amount to fuel the body, aid in recovery processes, aid in supporting muscle protein synthesis, aid in growth and repair and recovery, all these things, and to give you massive amounts of usable energy to incorporate high-intensity muscular contractions in your training. So now there might be a place if you're in a cutting cycle or deep into a cutting phase where you may want to push those carbohydrates into your earlier meals and have smaller amounts in your later meals, or maybe even none in your last meal. That's fine. But there's a time and place for everything. And where you're at in your season kind of dictates that. So as a general rule with carb cycling, you're replacing your energy component. Just like when you went low carb, or if you went carnivore or keto or whatever, you replaced your carbohydrate with fat. And if you're going to carb cycling, you're swapping that back. You're now adding the carbs back in as your primary energy source, and you're reducing the fat. So you don't want to have competing energy sources. That's where the problem comes in. That's what makes people fat. That's where the obesity crisis came in. 50, 60 years ago, when we started incorporating highly processed, highly palatable foods and seed oils, then a lot of the shit food that people were eating, and the fast food and the restaurant food and the packaged food, it had competing energy sources. It had an abundance of fat and it had an abundance of carbs, and often those carbs were shitty carbs like simple sugars. The fats were shitty fats like high fructose corn syrup and trans fats, whatever the case may be, but you're having these two competing energy sources. So you want to choose your dominant energy component, and in carb cycling, clearly that's carbs, and then you want to reduce the fat. And people often ask, well, how much fat? Well, it's going to vary by individual, but you want to keep your fat lower and just enough healthy fat coming in to fuel hormonal processes, which generally I don't go below, or it's best to say most people I have somewhere between 45 and 65 grams of fat per day. Which is plenty to fuel hormonal processes, regardless of what some might tell you. And then your energy is coming from clean, single ingredient, whole food carbohydrates. So that's how I would structure that. Now, back to the question, if you're working out early in the morning, now he's saying he's just sucking down a protein shake on his way to the gym. Now, protein, that's not going to do much for you in terms of your training performance. You're just talking about amino acids from protein, which are great for cellular repair, muscle growth, the building blocks of life, blah, blah, blah. But if I'm working out at, say, 5 a.m. and my tired ass is going out of the front door at, say, 4:30 on my way to the gym, then I'm probably either going to be doing something like, if I don't want to have a full meal. Now, for me, my ass would be up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'd probably be having the protein shake as mentioned, but I'd also be having something like cream of rice with maybe a drizzle of honey, or cream of rice and a chopped up banana, something like that. And if I've got roughly an hour for that to digest and assimilate and get somewhat out of my digestive tract, or at least out of my stomach, then I do great with that. My pre-workout meal is usually about an hour and a half before I train, but I'm able to time that because I train at 11 a.m. Now, if I'm training early in the morning and I don't have a big window of time before I get to the gym, I would do something that breaks down and digests fairly simple. I might do a couple of rice cakes with a drizzle of raw honey, or I might do a couple of rice cakes with a little bit of nut butter and a drizzle of raw honey, something like that, a little pinch of salt. That's going to be generally enough to fuel the high-intensity muscular contractions that you're going to be performing when you get to the gym. Now, obviously, this goes by size and weight and how much muscularity you have. I mean, some guys might be, or some women might be fine with 1 or 2 rice cakes and a little bit of raw honey. Some might need 4 or 5. But again, that dry rice cake, that dry carb, will break down very quickly and get into those working muscles fairly quickly and empty from the digestive tract fairly quickly, and you're going to be able to utilize that for your workout. Now, another great thing out there is a lot of pre-workout carbohydrate supplements, like a cyclic dextrin or a clustered dextrin. HOSSTILE, a brand that I represent, makes a phenomenal one. It's called Intra 8, and it's, I can drink that literally 30 minutes before I train. It quickly and easily digests and breaks down into my body and is immediately available as usable energy. So for me, I might do a clustered dextrin shake on my way to the gym. You can even add, you could do like a flavored clustered dextrin and put like a scoop of vanilla protein in with that. Tastes great. You're getting your quick, fast absorbing carbs. You're getting your protein. You're on your way to the gym. And by the time you get there, you're ready to crush it. So now, if there are some people who have expressed to me, dude, I just cannot eat anything before I train early in the morning. I get sick, or it upsets my digestion, or I feel like I'm going to freaking puke or whatever. That's fine. So in that case, the logical, rational approach would be to have a nice amount of single ingredient clean carbohydrates before bed. Get that into your system, and at least you'll wake up with fairly full glycogen stores that is going to be accessible for you to use as you jump right out of bed and get to that 4:35, 5:30 a.m. workout. So I would definitely at least do that. Again, there's no truth to this whole don't eat after 6 or don't eat carbs after 7 or whatever horse shit you see flying around the internet. That's not the way the body works. You find an amount of carbohydrate that works to operate your system that's not going to spill over. And as a general rule, most people, just about any, even like a 5'1" petite female, can easily take in 150 grams of carbohydrates a day and have no fear of getting fat. As long as they keep their fat a little bit lower, they make sure that they're getting their protein in, and they're choosing, again, single ingredient clean whole foods. So that's the simple basics around carb cycling. And so many people now are coming out of the woodwork because we've been around the keto world long enough. We've been around the carnivore world long enough to understand these diets can produce diminishing returns over time. Now, I've said it a million times, so listen up and pay attention. This isn't just hype. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm a coach. I'm different. I'm not selling you some silly product or ridiculous one-time program. If I'm not giving you truth and transparency, if I'm not relaying to you what I truly think is going to work for you, well, then you fire me or you never come back. And that would go against my business interest. I want to take care of people and give them the best possible course of action to get the best possible results, to produce the best physique they possibly can. And guess what? I'm the perfect freaking template. I just completed a 7-month contest prep with which I got down to 4% body fat and won my class in an NPC bodybuilding competition, and I had carbohydrates for 99% of it. There's only a couple of times where I went very, very low carb, and that was 2 weeks out, and that was just to deplete glycogen so I could just fill it up more. And when I did fill it up more in that final week, every time I took in more carbohydrates, I lost more body fat, because that's the way it works. So I have clients now that are taking in 150, 200, 300, 500 grams of carbs spaced throughout the day, lowering their fat. We get the numbers dialed in, and they're getting stronger, they're putting on more muscle, and they're getting leaner. And the mechanism works because once the body realizes that it's not starving to death and it doesn't need to hold on to fat for survival purposes, it can utilize the carbohydrate for high-intensity muscular contractions, output, energy, and function, and it can happily get rid of stored body fat because it has more to do with energy balance, how much energy you're taking in based on how much activity you're putting out, and then having a proper division of macros and proper quality of food to generate the adaptive response that you're looking for. So yeah, if you're carb cycling with freaking fast food, McDonald's and Bojangles, you're probably going to be in a world of shit. But if you're eating that single ingredient whole foods, then you're going to be just fine. It's like Justin Harris said, nobody gets fat on chicken and rice. And he's right. If that were the case, then every bodybuilder and physique competitor on the planet wouldn't be doing it. But they are. The best results I ever got were through the carb cycling protocol. And it will work great for you too. And if you need help with mapping that out, well, I do consultations and I do coaching. And now the freaking consultations are on sale. So let's go. All right. So that's kind of the basics of carb cycling, and it works well. Let me just reiterate one more thing. Sorry to be repetitive here, but again, if you're consuming clean, single ingredient whole foods, that's the most important thing you could do. We could solve the obesity crisis tomorrow if everybody shunned fast food, shunned processed food, shunned garbage food, and just had single ingredient clean whole foods. Meat is a single ingredient whole food. Potatoes are a single ingredient whole food. White rice is a single ingredient whole food. Butter is a single ingredient whole food. You see where I'm going with this? You know, an egg yolk for healthy fat is a single ingredient whole food. An avocado is a single ingredient whole food. It's when you bring in the processed garbage that everything starts to shit the bed, right? So clean your crap up and get back to single ingredient whole foods that are, the macros are spaced appropriately for the goal that you're currently in, and the magic will start to happen. You will build more muscle, you will burn more fat, you will have a greater and higher metabolic rate, and it is a very sustainable way of eating. No more do you have to be beholden to some meat cult that keeps you from, doing occasional things that you might enjoy that makes life more palatable, right? Hope that clears that up. And, along with that, I get this question. Do you plan on adjusting, or do you adjust protein and fat according to Justin Harris's recommendation when you carb cycle, or keep it steady as you have and only adjust the carbs? The only time that I adjust protein is on a high day. What's a high day? Back to Carb Cycling 101. For most, you cycle your carbs, carb cycling, based on output, and then you have also one high day. So I'm currently training 5 days a week. Normally it would be 4, but now I'm just dividing my legs up into 2 different days. I have a hamstring and glute day, and I have a quad dominant day. So I'm just hitting legs divided. So it works out to a 5-day split, but it's still almost like a 4-day split. So on those training days, 4 of them, that's my moderate day. that's when I take in a moderate amount of carbohydrate in carb cycling. So for me, depending on the phase that I'm in, like if I'm on a mass building phase or a recomp phase like I am now, it could be in upwards of 400 and 450 grams of carbs a day. That's what I take in on those moderate days on my typical training days. Now, on my off days, which for me is Saturday and Sunday, I reduce the carbohydrate because I'm not training and I don't need quite as much. And in a mass gain phase or a recomp phase for me, like I'm currently in, I just reduce the carbohydrates by 100 grams, and that's worked very well for me up to this point. And then I have one high day. For me, that is the quad dominant day. That's where I might be squatting or leg pressing, leg extensions, lunges, Bulgarian split squats. Hard, shitty leg stuff. It is the most intense training day of the week for me. So that is my high day, and high days are wild. High days, I might take in an extra 150 to 200 grams of carbs on those days. And what happens almost every time is I fully saturate my muscles in glycogen and may even spill over slightly, which is fine in this scenario. And what happens is it sends the signal that your body is fully filled with muscle glycogen. You're in a massive growth potential phase or moment, if you will, and it sends a signal that there is no reason to slow down metabolic processes. In fact, it will actually speed them up, resulting in a net zero effect in terms of any potential spillover or weight gain. I've never gained weight after a high day. In fact, I may be up a pound on the scale the next day, but that's just excess glycogen and water in the muscles. That is not fat. You don't gain fat overnight like that. It's not the way the body works. And then ultimately, by the next day, I'm either back down to the same weight that I was, and sometimes I might be a little leaner, because it's like throwing gas on a fire. And the high day really shines in when you're in a cut, because as you go into a deficit, your metabolism follows the deficit. And there might be times where the body might sense that it might be starving to death, or it might be a little bit petrified that you're eating too little food. So it starts to slow down metabolic processes for preservation of life. And then what you can do is you can kind of throw a wrench in that by incorporating that one high day where you throw this big whack of carbs at it. You keep your fat very low, as close to zero as possible on that one day. And then it sends a signal to your body that, oh, here's this massive influx of energy from, fast absorbing, high output carbohydrate. So there's no need to slow metabolic processes. We can speed everything back up. Everything's fine. We're not dying. And then what often happens after a high day, and I'm getting this feedback from clients now, is they will actually lose a pound 48 hours after their high day because the body's metabolic machinery gets ramped up. It's like throwing gas on a fire. So anyway, I kind of digressed there a little bit, but it's information that is important. So I don't manipulate my protein much at all, except for my high day, so I can get more carbohydrates in. So I will reduce my protein on that day because it's not a big deal if you do. So if I'm currently taking in 1.2 grams of protein per pound of ideal body weight, I might reduce it to 0.8 or 1 grams of protein per pound on that particular day. And I also reduce my fat as much as possible on the high day. You just want it to be an influx of clean carbohydrates to really jack and crank things back up and really completely supersaturate your muscles with glycogen. So, yeah, I think, all right. How many exercises per muscle group? Someone asked. Again, I forgot to put the name down. Sorry. Coffee's getting cold, so let me suck some of this down. Well, I guess cold coffee is better than no coffee at all. How many exercises per muscle group? Generally, for me, it's 3 for big compound movements. So if I'm doing legs or back or chest or even shoulders, it's generally 3 exercises for that. Sometimes 4 for legs, sometimes 4 for back. For instance, for legs, it could be a squat variation. It could be a heavy leg press. It could be some variation of a lunge. And then I might throw in leg extensions as a finisher to really blast the quads. I also really like hack squats. So that's part of the squat variations. On back, it could be 4. So I might do a heavy pulling movement. I might do some rowing movements. So I might do like a pull down. I might do a single arm cable row. I might do a chest supported row. And then I might throw in cable pullovers as a finisher to really isolate the lats. So sometimes it's 4 with that. Chest is really simple. I'll do a heavy incline barbell pressing movement generally, or a heavy incline dumbbell movement generally. Sometimes it's a machine like a hammer strength incline. And then I'll do some variation of a flat press. It might be a machine press. It could literally be push-ups, or just like a flat dumbbell press. And then I'll finish with some fly variation. It could be cable flies. It could be machine pec deck, and chest is done. You don't need any more than that. Arms, like biceps and triceps. Triceps is usually 3 movements because, I really love training triceps. I think it really is what makes the arm. So I might do some sort of a heavy skull crusher, heavy close grip press, dips, some kind of a cable press down, and then some sort of an overhead extension, whether it be easy curl bar or cables or whatever. Biceps, super simple. I'll do one heavy curling movement, whether it's a cable curl, barbell curl, dumbbell curl, machine curl, and then I'll throw in some sort of a hammer variety curl to hit the brachialis. It could be like a crossbody hammer curl or a rope hammer curl. Biceps are done. So 3 generally, sometimes 4 on larger muscle groups. Shoulders, overhead pressing of some variety, machine press of some variety, lateral raises always, and some sort of a rear delt, or like an upright or a face pull. And I'm good for shoulders. It's more about the intensity than it is the volume and the number of exercises and doing set after set after set, which becomes redundant, and that's when diminishing returns occur. So that's that. Favorite off season, 3 things. These are my favorite things in my off season. What's my favorite food in the off season? What's my favorite supplement in the off season? And what's my favorite PED in the off season? Food. I'm a breakfast guy. Give me a big ass stack of pancakes. Give me French toast. Give me, something like that. Like what I always did after every competition, and then sometimes in holidays, is we go to Cracker Barrel and I get this, what's called Mama's Pancake Breakfast, which is a stack of pancakes. I always get the blueberry pancakes. Then you get, I get eggs over easy, bacon, and then I always get a side of sourdough toast. I'm weird. I like to put my sunny side up eggs on the sourdough toast and eat it like that. So any kind of a hearty breakfast vibe is definitely my favorite off-season food. Favorite supplement off-season? I don't really have an off-season supplement. I maintain the same supplements year-round. So if I guess, gun to my head, I had to pick one supplement, it would probably be magnesium. So I do pound magnesium. I hit vitamin D3 and K2. I use creatine, 10 grams or more, because I like the cognitive benefit of that. And I still do my animal packs just as a big, massive insurance policy to get a little bit of everything in there. So I might do some omega-3s, but that's about it. I'm not a huge supplement guy. I just do those mainstays and kind of keep it at that. And PED, it's testosterone. Testosterone. That's the king. It's still the king. It will always be the king. I'm 57 freaking years old, and I'm definitely not afraid to tell you that right now in my off season, or what you might even call a health phase, I'm just doing TRT level testosterone. And that's something that I will do forever because it makes me feel great. It makes me perform great at every level. And because of what I do and who I am, I refuse to slow down and die. I'm the guy that's going to be going to the gym when he's 75. I'm the guy that's going to be out rucking in the woods when he's 75. I'm the guy that's going to be chasing grandkids around the park when he's 75. So I do testosterone, and in the off season, that's all I do. And that's all I need. I let my body do the rest through food and sleep and training. Because if you're well-fed, well-nourished, train hard, and get plenty of recovery, these are the most anabolic things you can do. And you couple that with adequate levels of testosterone, and that levels that playing field, and it all comes together for you. So, one more. As a coach, what was your biggest aha moment? The one thing that completely changed how you approached athletes and programming. This might be a fun one. We'll end with this. This is probably going to be boring, but my favorite or my biggest aha moment as a coach working with people one-on-one is when I finally realized that I can't save the world. The old, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I experienced this with my in the trenches gym clients, and I especially observe this with my online clients. You have to understand that, like, if I get 5 online clients, I'm probably going to keep one of them longer term. And that one will get staggering results if he or she does all the things. It's about consistency of effort. What makes a successful client? I have many gold clients. These are the custom coaching clients that get everything. And it's super easy to notice and divide the very successful ones with the ones that aren't very successful. The successful ones rarely ever miss a workout. I get notifications all day long, and it's usually the same people checking the boxes, getting these workouts done. These are the people that stick to their prescribed macros 90% of the time consistently. They get amazing results. The people that regularly do their prescribed cardio without missing a session, even if it's on a Sunday and it's an off day, they get it done. These are the people that get results. The people that do their check-ins, that do their Zoom calls, that if I put down there it's photo check-in day, they do their photo check-ins, and then we analyze those. When I do a body stat suggestion, let's do your body stats, which might be weight and measure or just body weight, they do that. The people that regularly ask questions, that are engaged in the process, these are the people that get it done. I have clients that have been with me for a year, and I put on there, it's photo check-in time, or, hey, let's track that food, or, hey, you haven't been doing your cardio. And even when I say that to them, weeks go by and nothing changes. And then they wonder, well, I wonder why I'm not getting the results that I was, So, but there was a time where I would completely stress out over that. It would keep me up at night. And then I had an epiphany one day years ago that, hey, you can't save the world. People are people, and they're going to do what they're going to do. I can only give the information. I can only help guide them through the process. I can only answer the questions. I can only help inspire by giving them a little kick in the ass here and there, or telling them, hey, you're doing awesome, or hey, if you just made this adjustment, things might really open up for you, or hey, it's okay. These things happen. You're going to be fine. And when I do that and people listen and stay engaged in the process, they do spectacular. And the ones that don't. You have to do the work. It's like starting a business and just putting your feet on the desk and laying back and expecting the dollars to start rolling in. You have to work the business all the time. There are going to be times where you're working on weekends or away from family or having late nights and early mornings, the things that you have to do to run a successful business. In changing your body, you might have to train on Saturday because you missed Friday. You might have to spend a little bit of time away from loved ones early in the morning to go to the gym. You might have to eat separately from some family members who are reluctant to make the same changes that you are. Whatever the case may be, you have to do what you have to do to get the results that you want to get. And when I learned that you can't save the world, and then when you have one bad calf jump the fence and leave the herd, let them go and focus on moving the rest of the herd along. So that was probably the biggest moment for me. And when I was able to come to terms with that, everything kind of turned around. So that would be that. So, okay. Morning Muscle, The Return, episode 1, done. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a comment. Let me know if you need anything. I'm easy to get in touch with through all social media outlets. Join the Facebook groups listed below. And I'll be back next weekend, and we'll shoot the shit some more. God bless you all, and go out there and make something happen. I'm out.